Right. There'll be a little bit of a talk at the beginning,
You're gonna
just
tell us some stories, right?
exactly, just to start to get a feeling of like, basically what we're saying in this is like, don't let the technique, decide. Don't fall for the idea that the technical can give you the full picture of the planet. Like, learn its story from the inside out. And what we'll find, by the way, it's not to say we're throwing the techniques out the window, because we're not. What you'll always find is when you get in there, it makes sense. The technique, but it's almost like it breathes new life into the technique. It breathes new
Yeah.
life into that. It's like those languages where they don't have vowels, they only have consonants. They have the bones of the language, but each breath makes the sounds come, the language comes
Mm.
to life. And that's the similar thing. We're breathing more life into those techniques. So we don't end up out of it's not just like free for all, like, oh, do anything
Right.
you want, right? Kind of like when you said to the person who was doing the art, you were like, I don't think you're tuning into Scorpio here. Like, I want you to be free in your expression, but let's just feel it a little bit more, because so we're still within our astrology. It isn't just like we're going wherever. But it's actually breathing new life into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to give us different perspectives on those planets that people think are like uh Maleficent.
Malefic, or
And-
all of the above. And again, we're not going to throw it overboard. We're just going to say, what does that mean besides good or bad? Like what's
Right.
good and bad is like, it doesn't get you very far. So what's the planet's story? What's its secrets? What does it know that you don't know? And one of the ways, just say one more thing. you know
Yeah.
I mentioned the ecology thing, and one of my favorite stories in the world is about when they reintroduced wolves at Yellowstone, Yellowstone National Park. So the wolves had been, hunted to extinction because they would eat the cattle and cause problems, and to the farmers that lived around the park and stuff like that. And so they ended up reintroducing the wolves, and it had transformative effects on the park that nobody could imagine. So what happened is, like, when you brought in this so-called bad animal, right? Wolves were like
Right.
predators, they're the
Right.
bad
Right. Right.
ones.
Scary.
So they brought this bad animal in, and what started to happen is, like, the deer and the elk sort of moved away from some of the rivers and thinned out a little bit, which meant that a lot of plants started to grow again, which
Wow.
attracted then other animals in. And then, like, the bears are coming, and then they're shitting on the earth, and that's like the soil is being rehabilitated. And it even resulted in things like the shape of the rivers started to change, like, because
Wow.
the banks of the rivers would be more stabilized. And then there'd be these little eddies where all kinds of different life can live that weren't there. So the entire park, the ecosystems in the park had more life, more diversity, more complexity, all because of this introducing the bad guy back into the system. So it's very
Right.
similar in astrology. Like, when we bring in, or we let a planet have a habitat, when we give it a place in our lives, and we can start in these experiential ways, like just to give the planet a chance to, like, just be here in the room, it will transform the entire ecosystem of the life and the personality. Like, it shifts things that you couldn't predict, because it's such a complex system. So I just wanted to say that, because that's kind of what we're doing. We're sort of saying, if who are the baddies or the problems, saying actually they probably have the thing that you need. They probably have
Right.
a gift. But they
They're
might.
like the red shoes,
Yeah,
right? Shoes,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You always had the power.
Right.
But I'm also, when you're talking, I'm also thinking about like how applicable that is to the transits. Like people get so nervous about having a Saturn transit or a Pluto transit. And that might be the wolf that needs to come in to revive everything.
Exactly. It's not just natal. Like, it's very much a way to work with the transits, and then to begin to actually be in a conversation with Pluto, rather than just feeling like, oh, it's just putting me through all this stuff. If you see Pluto, maybe you do see an animal for your Pluto, or for the transiting Pluto,
Right.
or you feel like an underworld opening is happening, or you've been transported to the underworld, like, most heroes had to go to the underworld at some point, and which
Right,
ghosts do you need to talk to? And maybe you discover them in this workshop, like, and again,
right,
that can go to depth and intensities. It's not, we will work with it skillfully so it's not overwhelming, but it is an opportunity to really, go in at a deeper level to what might be wanting to happen, and yeah, rather than to feel like it's happening to you, it's sort of like,
right.
what's the conversation you can have, not to deny that transits are there, we're not going to be able to control it, but we will,
Sure.
if we're in an active relationship, it's a very different thing. Yeah.